Dear viewers, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to our live webinar by Dr. Arif Hassan on culture sensitive method of social research. Dr. Arif Hassan is a former professor of management from International Islamic University of Malaysia, IIUM. He has over 40 years of teaching and research experience while working in India and Malaysia. To mention a few, he served National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration, New Delhi, Patna University, and Institute of Social Studies. Ladies and gentlemen, he has authored 5 books and published in leading scientific journals. He is also a recipient of several recognition and awards, including the Fulbright Postdoctoral Research Fellowship, Distinguished Scholar Award from Academy of Global Business Advancement, USA, and he received the Best Paper Award from Academy of Management. Ladies and gentlemen, he is currently living in Australia with his family and serves as the chief editor of the International Journal of Human Potential Management. And today we are very delighted to have Dr. Arif Hassan on our live webinar. Dr. Arif Hassan, welcome to the webinar. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mahfouz. It's a great honor for me to give this webinar. As you know, I'm a professor, and professors always like to give talks and lectures. So for me, it's a very pleasant experience. I'm happy that I can reach to so many people, who are interested in research particularly. All right, so as you can see, my topic is culture sensitive method of social research. Uh, what this is all about, I'll come to it later, a few minutes later. Let me tell you my experience, of doing PhD myself. When I was doing my PhD in the 80s, my professor or supervisor told me that when you go for data collection, you should not straightway distribute the questionnaire to your respondents. I was doing research into big steel mill companies, in India, and I was trying to compare their management systems and leadership and job characteristics and effectiveness and things like that. And I was comparing one public sector steel company with a private sector steel company in India. So my supervisor told me that you have a questionnaire, but please don't distribute the questionnaires to your managers on the first day. What you should do is that you should go there, spend time, maybe about a month or so, just visit their places, chat with them, make friendship with them, attend their meetings if possible, be around and develop, understanding about them, so that they know you, their intentions, they understand your intentions and your desire to talk to them and know about them. In other words, you must develop a rapport with them so that they give you true response on the questionnaire. Otherwise, what will happen is that if you simply distribute the questionnaire and ask them to give it back to you next day, well, number one, it would be very difficult for them to sort of respond to you. Many of them will forget that. And even if they give you the fill-up questionnaire back, you're not sure whether they have given you their true answers. Many times people simply give desirable answers rather than the true answers. And this is more true in a collectivistic culture, where people simply don't want to be seen in any undesirable way. So they would like to, give you answers on your questionnaire in a way which looks very, very positive and desirable, not, talking those things which may not be very pleasant to themselves. That's the characteristics of a collectivistic society. Well, so I did that, but even then, what I did was that I used two methods of data collection, particularly when I was trying to ask them to rate their own leadership styles, right? So what I did was, first of all, I asked them to respond to my questionnaire, which measures their leadership styles. These leadership styles could be participative, authoritarian, bureaucratic, things like that. Then I asked their subordinates to rate their supervisors on these leadership styles, just changing a little wording. So rather than using I would use he. His leadership style is like this. So measuring the leadership style in two different ways. And when I compared the findings later on, what I found that when the managers themselves were describing their leadership style, the highest rating was for participative style, that they are more participative. Whereas when the subordinates rated these managers, their rating was highest, mean score was highest on authoritarian. So in the same place, people who are, talking about themselves, they are talking as if, they're saying that we are very participative. But the subordinates, when they rated their superiors, their highest rating was for authoritarian style, leadership style. So that was very sort of revealing to me. And later on, we pursued this interest. And not recently, about 5 years back, me and my colleague, from India, we conducted a study to really empirically verify this whole concept. Okay. And to investigate whether we can try with a different methodology rather than using respondents, can we use the same people as informants? All right. Why? Let me show you this, some of the slides, and then I'll come back to the research findings that we did. All right. Now, this is a very famous quote. I think you might have, some of you might have read this. It says like this. This is from Oscar Wilde. That man is least himself when he talks in his own person. Give him a mask and he will tell you the truth. Right? Man is least himself when he talks in his own person. Give him a mask and he will tell you the truth. All right? So give him a mask, rather than asking them to tell about themselves. Why can't we say that you tell about others? If you are really studying some of the social phenomena, that can be done. Now, the traditional way of conducting research, anybody who is doing any kind of survey research in social sciences, what they do is that in order to understand social reality, they would, distribute questionnaires to their sample, and then from their response, they would sort of, get the understanding of the social reality. For example, social values. There is a very famous study. I think everybody must be knowing about this. The Hofstede study, where the Gilles Hofstede conducted the study in 1980s and later also, surveyed the employees from working in the IBM company through a questionnaire. This questionnaire would be given to the employees, and the employees would respond to this questionnaire, describing their own values. And then Hofstede, what he did was he collected his responses from different countries and then tried to sort of find out what are the values which are strong in different cultures. So what the Hofstede did was he used the same respondent method, and on the basis of this individual's perspective, Hofstede said that this is the cultural value in a particular country, whether it is power distance, whether it is individualism or collectivism, whether it is masculine versus feminine or long-term versus short-term orientation. So culture scores came from employees' description of their own values. Okay, so that is how most of the researches were conducted, and I have seen that not only that, many students who do PhD nowadays or even before, they simply don't spend much time on data collection. They are in hurry. just simply distributed it in the questionnaire, and somehow try to rather later on do some kind of screening, data screening, and all those things, and come up with the results and findings. I find it really sometimes very upsetting, because the quality of data is very very important to research. If you are not getting the quality of data, if you're not able to spend much time on uh, getting to know your respondents or your sample, and you simply distributing the questionnaire and then collecting it back and then doing all kinds of statistical analysis, I think this research is less meaningful to me. No matter how many statistical techniques you use to get the reliability and validity and whatnot. Anyway, that's another issue. I will come back to this whole methodology of respondent versus informant. So what I say that uh, as I told you, that the respondent method basically conceptualize reality, social reality, as the totality of individuals' perception, how individuals describe themselves, and then it is being projected as social reality. And so what are the issues with this respondent method of data collection? The first problem is reluctance to public expression on controversial issues. Okay, if you are conducting research on, let's say, some very very controversial issues like discrimination and prejudice, on moral values and things like that, people would be less and less candid, in telling you and giving you the true answer. Right? So there is a reluctance that you will always find. People would say, why should I give this researcher my true feeling about these issues? Let me hide it and say that, no, I'm very nice, I'm very fine. So there is a kind of reluctance always, in expressing your your views on controversial issues. That's a big issue. Then the other one is that individuals' need for social desirability. I think this is a big issue in any questionnaire research, that social desirability factors are not examined properly. And we know that people want to give desirable rather than real answer. That happens in many kinds of, survey studies or surveys, like on life satisfaction, job satisfaction, or moral and ethical values and things like that. They would give you desirable answers rather than the real answer. And this whole issue of social desirability is even more pronounced in a collectivistic culture, because people always think in terms of how other people will 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 feel about me if I say something which is not desirable. So rather than giving the real answer, you will get more socially desirable response, and that means you are not finding the real truth, which is the purpose of research, right? So this is what we mean by social desirability: the tendency of individuals to project favorable images of themselves during social interaction. So when you conduct questionnaire surveys, what you get is self-serving information from the respondents, and this will impact your study, whether you're studying people's happiness or religiosity, or their morale or life satisfactions or job satisfactions and many other things. This factor called social desirability is always going to come into as a factor. So we suggest that why not we turn respondents as informants. All right. So what does it mean? Place respondents in the role of informants. Informants distance themselves from their own personal views and make impersonal observation of the social reality. So rather than asking them how I do and how I work and how I feel, you ask them how others do and how others feel. So logical to ask respondents about their views on collectives rather than views on themselves. Okay. Now this methodology is not new one. This is has been used for a very long time by anthropologists and sociologists in their studies. When you look at the way the anthropologist goes to the tribe and do the participants observation, they are simply talking to them, living with them, and then trying to make an understanding of how they feel rather than how the researcher or the respondents feel themselves, right? So this is not a new technique. This has been used by sociologists and anthropologists for many times. Okay. Now, another problem with the respondent method, as you know, is that you need to have a representative sample, okay? And the sample size should be big enough so that you can generalize your findings on the population, all right? Now, these are the examples of, the way you can design your questionnaire from respondent method to the informant method. Suppose you are trying to study, some issues related to the social behavior. All right. Now, if you use respondent method, you would like to ask questions like this: I forget differences and help each other during disaster. Now, the same question could be rephrased simply by replacing the word I with people. People forget differences and help each other during disasters. Okay. Similarly, I know when to remain silent and when to say what. You can change it by people know when to remain silent and when to say what. All right. So this is positive theme, but you can use negative theme as well. And the example would be like this. Respondent method, I talk ideals but behave in selfish manner. I. Now you change it to people. People talk ideals but behave in a selfish manner. Or I throw garbage at public places, though I keep my own premises clean. All right, change it to people. People throw garbage at public places, though keep own premises clean. Right? You can see the difference, as you can feel that when you are using this methodology, you use questions like this, the responses would be different from when you use questions in the respondent method. Okay. The advantage of the informant method is that a smaller convenient sample can impersonally provide outsiders' understanding of the reality. Right? Unlike the respondent method, you need to be a big sample, representative sample, so that you can generalize the finding. In the respondent method, even a smaller convenient sample can impersonally provide outsiders' understanding of the social reality. That's very interesting. Okay. Of course, there are limitations also of the informant method. One of the limitations would be that because informants are giving outsiders' view, their perception may be stereotypical, hence only partly valid. They would try to give you the response based on their own stereotypes. So that is why it is called stereotypical. However, this can be circumvented. This can be avoided by taking a divergent sample of informants who should converge in profiling social reality. If you take a divergent sample, then maybe this whole issue of, stereotyping can be avoided. So in order to these are some of our research motivation. to test whether respondent method is better than informant method. So informant methods is better than respondent method. Is there any difference in the results when you collect data from these two methodology, and how far the social desirability factor influences the respondent result or the informant's results. So we tested this in a research study. I'd like to show you the findings of the study. But before that, you know, we I'd like to show you the hypothesis. All right. So our first hypothesis was respondents endorse more strongly positive beliefs, preferences, and practices for themselves than for the people in their society. Okay, so when they are responding, talking about their own beliefs and values and practices, they would give higher ratings to themselves than to other people in the society. That was our first hypothesis. Right. The second one was that the reverse is true for negative beliefs and preferences and practices, which will be attributed more strongly to people than self. So if when they're talking about, the respondents are talking about others in negative terms, for example, throwing garbage and things like that, okay, they would attribute these characteristics more strongly to others rather than to themselves. So this was another hypothesis. All right. And the second one, the second one hypothesis was the respondents' perception of their beliefs, preferences, and practices is correlated with their perception of people's beliefs and preferences. What we are saying is that when respondents talk about themselves and when they talk about others, of course there are correlations, okay? They are correlated, but the better result comes from the informants rather than from the respondents' method. And the third one is that respondents' score on a social desirability measure is positively correlated with their score on the positive beliefs, preferences, and practices, and negatively correlated with the negative beliefs, preferences, and practices. So the social response desirability factor, the score on social desirability scale, and this scale, this measure which measures the positive or negative beliefs and preferences, they are correlated. That means social desirability factor play a role in the respondent method of data collection. However, this factor, the SD factor or SD effect, is uncorrelated with informant methodology. When you collect the data through informant methodology, you will not get this kind of correlations between social desirability factor and their responses on beliefs and preferences. So this was our three different hypotheses. Okay. Now, this study was conducted in two countries, India and Malaysia, with two different kinds of samples. In India, the sample was a mix of 100 adults, age range 20 to 60 years, 70% males, 74% married, 61% university degree holders, and middle class. Right? In Malaysia, it was a different type of sample. They were all students, homogeneous sample of 127 undergraduates, 73% were females, mean age 22.5 years. Right. We use these measures, perception of people's belief, preferences, and practices scale, which had 15 statements measuring socio-typical responses. Examples I've already showed to you. Okay, people forget differences and help each other during disasters. These are the positive and negative theme is people run after power and position, although they value peace of mind. So there are two different themes, positive and negative themes. Okay. And the same 15 items were used to describe self-perception, which means using respondent methodology. Okay, an example was the same. I rather than people. I forget differences and help others during disaster. I run after power and position, although I value peace of mind, positive and negative themes. The third one was the social desirability scale. We used modified Kroner and Marlowe scale, very famous scale, which measures the degree of respondents' disposition to present themselves in a socially desirable fashion. Now this is the finding. I don't know whether you can see that. Let me just show you one item. People forget differences and help each other during disaster. This is positive theme. And this is India and Malaysia response. This is the mean for people, that is the informant methodology. Okay, and this is the mean for respondent. Okay, so as you can see, when people are rating themselves on this positive theme, the mean value is higher compared to when they are rating other people, okay, others. So here it is 4.28 and 4.15, okay. And correlation is significant, but the mean differences are not significant in this case. In Malaysia, this is very pronounced. When they are rating others on positive values, the mean is lower than when they rate themselves. Okay, you can see that 4 and 3.61. And the mean difference is very strongly significant, 3.69. So this is about the positive theme. And this is what we found. Higher mean score for self than for others, endorsing positive attributes to self than for others. This was the finding from the table, that I just showed to you. All right. Also, coefficient of correlation between self and people's perceptions were moderately significant, which means the findings between the respondent and informant methods go hand in hand. Okay. And in both countries, respondents did project their own positive beliefs, preferences, and practices to the people residing around them. Okay, so there was a projection when you were using respondent methods on the informant. Now, when we use the negative themes, okay, negative themes means some items like this. I talk ideals but behave in selfish manner, or people talk ideals but behave in a selfish manner, right? Let's take this example. In India, the mean score uh, for respondent method in I, it is no, for informant method, people. When mean score for people methodology, people, it is 4.11. But when the same people talk about themselves, the mean score is very low. Okay, because it is very negative, talking ideals but behave in selfish manner. You can see the mean difference. All right, it's very significant here. The t-value is very significant. So this is what we found when we use the negative themes. Okay, or say take another example. Throw garbage at public places, though keep own premises clean. People 4.10, self 2.29. All right, you can see the difference. Main difference highly significant. This is in India and this is in Malaysia, the same thing. 3.79, 2.16. Main difference highly significant. So what we got is that in India, all 9 negative statements were rated more true to others than to self. 7 statements yielded highly significant mean difference. In Malaysia, all but one item was rated as more true to others than self, and the mean difference was moderately significant. So, on negative things, both the data in both the countries always showed that people were always talking more negatively to others rather than to themselves. So this is what is the finding the people around them but not themselves run after power and position, behave in selfish manners, don't keep promises, are superstitious, work very hard only when expect to get amply rewarded, litter in public places, hide true intentions to appear socially desirable. Can you see the interesting finding? When people are talking about others, they have all these attributions to others but not to themselves. So this is kind of graph, as you can see. This is people and this is self, you know. So when it is on positive attributes, people are rated lower, and negative attributes, people are rated higher. On the contrary, when they're talking about themselves, when they use respondent method, on positive themes, the mean score is higher. On negative themes, the mean score is lower. So this is the findings that we got from India. And interestingly, although this sample was different in Malaysia, it was very homogeneous, the result was almost the same. Okay, as you can see over here. Okay, on positive themes, the self is rated higher. On negative theme, self is rated lower. Whereas people are rated lower on positive themes and higher on negative one. So this is what we call as the problem with using respondent method. All right. We also found that social desirability disposition was not correlated to other people's perception of positive or negative statements. In other words, when we use the informant methods of data collection, and the social desirability factor was not correlated, it was not significant. Whereas when we used the respondent method, the social desirability factor was correlated in both the negative and positive themes, positive and negative themes, as you can see. The correlation value is 0.24 on positive theme, and on negative theme is also 0.21, which is significant. So, what are the conclusions? Number one, stronger endorsement of positive beliefs, preferences, and practices for self than for others. The opposite was true for negative statements about self than for others. And self-rating was moderated by social desirability disposition. The relationship culture induces people to see others in a positive light. Okay. So what is the implication of this study? Number one, good number of studies in social sciences employ respondent method. In fact, majority have seen that. They use questionnaire and they ask respondent to fill up the questionnaire, sometimes in hurry, sometimes without giving much time, and then end result is you don't get a very quality data. And then you keep on sort of screening and conducting reliability checks and all that. All right. A representative sample is required to generalize finding in the respondent methodology. Informant method may be a better alternative to respondent's methodology, especially in a collectivistic culture. And employees may be more comfortable talking about others than about themselves. Okay, they will be more comfortable. You can get a better, volunteering. Coming forward and talking about talking about others rather than about themselves. Of course, there are limitations also. One of the limitations is that there is a need to anchor the findings in actual behavior. We do talk about all these positive and negative, belief preferences and behavior, But actually, we need to see, actually in the real time, real situation, actually how these people who talk about themselves or talk about others actually behave. So this would require, a more intensive study, okay, maybe longitudinal one, and further studies are suggested to sample behavior along verbal measures. Right. This research was published, a long time back, I think 2015, in the International Journal of Business and Society. Okay, this is the reference of that. If somebody is interested, can visit this journal site and download the paper. I think it can be downloaded from there. Okay, Mahfouz, if you want, I can also send you a paper if you are interested or someone is interested in that.
Sure, Prof. Later we can share with others
Yeah.
if there anyone else.
So that's all, Mahfouz. If you need more clarity or anything that you could not follow, anybody could not follow, I would be happy to answer questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. For it was very informative in nature, and I would love to take some questions. We have some people joining with us. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Um, but before we take the questions, if you could share something about the journal that you are editing, like editor-in-chief, the journal. If you could share some information about the journal you are heading, Prof.
Yeah, I think first of all, I would request that you should please go to visit this journal. The URL is this one, abmjournal.org. Okay, and find out the details of the journal. It's a new journal, it's not yet indexed. But we are trying to index it, inshallah, very soon. All right. So I would request that anybody who wants to publish the paper, please send it to me on this email, or you can also use the journal site and upload your paper there. Now, this journal basically would like to have paper
Prof,
yeah.
Prof, if you could, what do you call slideshow? This one is a bit small.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just for others to see. Yeah, yes, Prof. Now good, now good.
So this is the journal URL, abmjournal.org /index.php and this journal would like to publish papers both empirical and theoretical in the area of human potentials management, which covers very wide range of management topics. Okay, it could be human resource management, HRD, learning and development, all right, or training, uh, and a variety of management issues. We are very open to that. So please feel free to contact me if you have any publishable material. You can email me, and you can send the paper through email, or you can also use the journal website and upload the paper over there. All right.
Right. Thank you, Prof. Dear viewers, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions, you can post the questions through the comment box. And we have some guests with us today. One is MD Shohel Rana. He is also doing PhD in University of Malaya. We have another one, Ahmed Al Ashad. He's from Bangladesh, but he's soon going to Australia to do his PhD. Another one is Emily Basir. He's a Malaysian. He's doing PhD in University of Malaya. So, if you have any questions regarding this research or the webinar, you are free to ask. And
Yeah, please feel free.
Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Can you hear?
yes.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you, sir. I think it's a very good and interesting publication you have done, especially in the cross-country cultural perception. So I would like to congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
Actually, in social desirability factors,
Yeah.
ideal but acting selfish manner. So you have collected data from Malaysia. The data were, basically homogeneous. And
Yeah.
in terms of, and the data collected from India, I think it was not homogeneous. It was maybe
Yes.
heterogeneous, right?
Mhm.
So how do you actually uh, make similarity with both these data? This is my first question. And most of the
Mhm.
respondent from Malaysia was undergraduate degree students. So their
Mhm.
perception may be different regarding the society or people, especially when it comes to the cultural factor, because they think themselves most in the university ages. And my
Mhm.
second question is, how can you compare this perception with the employees perception, because employees has different cultural issues in their factories, in the companies. So can this outcome of this research be comparable to the industrial sector? Do you have any
Very good.
explanation?
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah. I
Prof.
can understand both of you. Both of the questions are very good. The first one is that you say that the sample characteristics of India and Malaysia were different. Yes, this is different, and actually this proved a point. We were not comparing the two countries. We were not comparing the Indian data with Malaysian data. We were actually wanted to see whether a sample which is heterogeneous would also provide the same kind of finding as the sample which is homogeneous, all right? Or in other words, whether sample, which is very homogeneous can behave the same way as the sample which is varied, like in India. And to our surprise, what we found that these findings were almost similar, whether it is homogeneous or heterogeneous sample, findings are similar that when people talk about themselves on positive themes, they overrate themselves or give higher scores. And when they talk about negative themes, they underrate themselves. And it is contrary to when they talk about others, about people. It is very interesting that whether it is homogeneous or heterogeneous, the results are almost the same. So we were not comparing the two countries. We were trying to see whether, the methodology works in different type of situations, right? The second question was that, in the very beginning, I told you that the idea to this research came from my own study when I was doing PhD during 80s. And I used two different methodologies to understand the leaderships of managers, leadership styles of managers. All right. And I found that when managers rate themselves on leadership style, the results are different from when their subordinates rate them on the same leadership style. So the idea of this research came from there. I think if you are using this methodology, this informant methodology, in a variety of situations, I'm sure you are going to get a better result, more realistic understanding of the situation. See, the whole purpose of doing research is to understand reality, not to get a result which is very rosy, very what you call as looks very nice. Uh, you don't end up, getting anything. You are getting some very false findings. No matter how many statistical techniques you use, you do all those modeling and things like that. What you are doing is that you are using data which is already corrupt. People have already given you desirable answer, not the real answer. So using the informant method is always better than a respondent method. I've used this talk in many places. Recently, I was talking to the PhD students in the University of South Australia here, last year, I think. And their PhD students were so excited. They said, yes, I think that's better methodology. We would use informant methodology in collecting data rather than respondent methods. They were very excited about it. All right. So you can use it. The question I have, using the informant method in any kind of study which asks you to use questionnaires. All right?
Prof, may I ask one question?
Sure, sure.
Just wondering, I mean, what might be causing us to do this behavior? I mean, uh, we think differently to for others, and when you rate ourselves, we do differently, and when you rate people, the same things or same issues, we differently. What might be causing us to behave this way?
The main cause is social desirability, Mahfouz. People don't want to give you, uh, 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 any kind of understanding that you have weakness, that you have problems, particularly on negative things. And they would like to see themselves more positively. That is a human weakness. Social desirability is a human weakness. Right? This is more so in a collectivistic culture rather than individualistic culture. In individualistic culture, maybe people are more, they don't care how other people will think about me. All right? But in a collectivist culture, it is always, a big problem, that we should not say something which is undesirable. For example, you are doing a study on religiosity and you have certain questions which are indicative. Things that you do backbiting, right? uh, I think I've seen one scale which measured the Islamic world values, and there were items, which were very funny, saying that let's call it. I forgot that. They were very funny items that nobody would say that I do that, even though that they were doing it. All right. So this is a big problem, in social research, particularly in collectivist culture, that people would give you a very rosy picture about themselves and hide their negative sides. Okay, that is called social desirability issue, and that needs to be taken care of. The best methodology to take care of that would be using the informant methods. That's what I'm saying.
Right. Is there any other question? Ahmed Ashik or Emily?
I
Prof?
think they have posted.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, Prof, you are telling that informative approach is more suitable when it comes to taking, true information from the individual side.
Yeah. Sure. Two things I'm saying, this is one, of course, that you should use, if possible, use informant methods, right? The other thing is that please don't be in hurry in collecting data. Even if you're using the respondent method, I've seen many people, they just go and distribute the questionnaire, and then come back tomorrow and collect the questionnaire and use some contacts and do all kinds of, these online surveys, go to the shopping mall and, distribute the questionnaire to the customers or consumers and things like that. I'm not very happy that you are going to get the kind of data which really makes some sense or some meaning. People will be simply filling the questionnaire, as soon as possible, just because, you are either you're giving them some incentive or they just want to get rid of you. That's not the way you should collect data. Data is the essence of a research. So you must spend a lot of time, in collecting data. You cannot believe that I spent 2 months in one place, cycling every day in that big factory, cycling every day, visiting different departments, sitting with their employees, attending their morning meetings every day for 2 months before I canvassed my questionnaire, before I distributed my questionnaire. By that time, many of them became my friends. They started inviting me to their homes, all right? And then started telling a lot of stories about their workplace, the frustrations, the satisfaction, and things like that. In fact, I collected number of stories and anecdotes which I used as a qualitative supplement of my quantitative findings. You know, you can combine both qualitative and quantitative research methodology if you spend time with your respondents or with your sample, understand the place, understand people around, understand their work environment, talk to them, get friendly with them, and then you should collect data. The quality of the data would be much different. So that's what I did. My supervisor said, don't give any questionnaire to your sample for 2 months. Just go there and visit and spend time every day. And I did that. I went to attend their morning meetings every day. And I, got to know so many people over there. They told me stories and collected those stories. And even today I use, in my lectures, I use some of those stories because they're very revealing stories, I tell you.
Prof, there's one question from
Yes, Prof,
Emily,
you are right.
one of the PhD students. He said,
Mhm.
how can we reduce the social disability by internet survey? Is it possible? I mean, this approach, internet survey.
Well, I would say that you should use a social desirability questionnaire together with your own questionnaire to see if there is a correlation between the two. That's one thing. Even in the internet survey, you can use the informant method rather than respondent. Why can't?
Okay.
You can use the informant method.
Right.
Whether you are using internet or face-to-face survey, it doesn't matter. All right?
I see. All right. All right, Dr. This was a very insightful discussion and a lot of angles that some of us we never, it never came to our mind that we should be thinking this way to do survey. Normally, as you know, our practice is that our PhD student simply just goes out
Yeah.
and just survey. Just see, in many occasions, that's why we may not get a very interesting result. What we get is a very expected as usual result. Yeah. So anyway, I think this opens a new door for us, and we'll share this one, and this video will be also shared. So hopefully, the others people will be, knowing all those facts, and they will be embarking on these types of methodology to get a better result and to get a true results, I would say. So with that note, Doctor, I thank you so much for joining us and giving us your time. This is an already night. I think night falls in Australia. So thank you so much for joining, and hope to see you again in other webinar, Prof. Uh,
Yeah, thank you very much, Mahfouz. I'm really very happy that you are organizing this series of webinar, which should be very useful to particularly the research students who are doing PhD, right? And mm, I wish you best of luck. Keep doing it, and please let me know if you want anything else from me. I would be always ready. Okay, now because I have plenty of time, I have retired. So no problem for me. If you just let me know, and I can see whether I can give something. All right.
Thank you so much, Prof. Ladies and gentlemen, dear viewers, we come to an end of our webinar, and we'll catch you some other time in other webinar. Stay blessed, stay safe. Assalamu
Thank you.
alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.